Hi, everyone. It's Darius Barazande. Did you know that 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? And sadly, one third of Americans believe or know they would go broke in a week if they did not have salary coming in from a job. Literally, they would not have the savings to sustain 1 week, one third. So, what is going on? How do you exit this paradigm? And if they are people who have exited that paradigm, how did they do it? That's a really important question, especially right now, because I believe there are so many opportunities to do this. And I believe that consciousness is accelerating and things are getting easier and easier. This is a question from a listener, watcher of one of my videos who wrote in and said, first of all, what do I do to plug into a new reality or a new simulation in the matrix, a new timeline in the field, if I've never actually experienced that firsthand? Like, let's say you want to have a house and you've only lived in an apartment. How do you imagine yourself in a house if you don't know what it feels like to have a new house or to have more space or to be in a certain part of town or in a certain state? How do you do that? Great question. You see, our imagination is the doorway to infinite intelligence. This is what Napoleon Hill said, that the imagination through the subconscious is the doorway to infinite intelligence. Why is that important? Because infinite intelligence is the mind of God. That means that whatever we impress upon the mind of God or we put into the mind of God must take form in the physical world. Let me say that again. Whatever we drop into the mind of God, whatever we create from this mind of God must eventually take form in the physical world because God is the creator of the physical world. The challenge of teachings that we've learned is that we have been told that we are separate from God. And even if people tell you, well, you are God, or you are a God particle, or you are part of divine source, isn't really a way that we're always taught to use that power. Does that make sense? So, one of the things that we're going to talk about is the imagination, how to use the imagination. Because, as I said, if you could actually do this one thing really quick, remember this formula. I should have written it down. It's very simple. You will never forget it after this. So if you want reality to shift, do this first, do this, and then ponder this for the rest of your days because you will not be able to let it go. I promise. I'm going to tell you what it is in just one moment. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. If you've got a question, submit it down below. Make these videos based on the questions that you all submit and things that come in. So here's what you need to remember. Will change everything. It changed it for me. And I went from, recently divorced, wanting to move to a new city, not having the money to buy a new house, not having a relationship, feeling absolutely like my life was just collapsing, like would never have, a chance at a marriage again. And literally in a very short period of time, about 7 months, I moved to that new city, actually well before that, 4 months. And in 6 months had met the person that I married now, the love of my life. And very soon thereafter, found the exact home in the exact neighborhood that I wanted. And this is what I did. But I want you to remember this. I want you to remember this. Imagination equals God. If you can remember that formula, imagination equals God. It's at 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Imagination equals God. Therefore, when you are in your imagination, you are playing in the realm of your God self. Your God self exists in your imagination. So as you are imagining and then following the cues and clues that come from that imagination and that imagined state, you then are going to switch your timeline. So let me talk with a little bit of y'all about how do you actually use this imagination. One person wrote in and said, I don't know what it's like to have a certain outcome, so I can't really imagine it. Well, let's say you were really wanting a new car and you were trying to find and experience a new car and have it, but you'd never had one before, what you would do is you would basically go to a place where you could experience that. It might be you might go to a car dealership, you might sit in the car, you might touch the leather, you might take it for a test drive, you might put up a bunch of different pictures of that car, you might create a vision board, which a lot of you know. You might talk about that type of car, you might research that type of car, you may become an expert on that type of car. You may even choose to like work at a car dealership that sells that type of car, but you begin to surround and saturate yourself with that thing and what will happen? You will begin to vibrate at the timeline, at the frequency of somebody who has that thing, right? That's how it works. Same thing will happen if you are trying to, let's say, move to a particular state or particular town. Maybe you are going to focus on that. You're going to learn about it. You're going to visit there. You're going to take pictures there. You're going to remember it. If you were looking for, a mate, you are going to act as if you already have that thing and be in the imagination of the thing, of having the thing, and not acting as if, but acting from it. Let me say that again. Second piece here. Go to places or spaces or experiences where you can saturate your senses with that thing you want. And if it's something like, well, I want to be married, but I don't know what, I'm not married. Well, just imagine yourself married and act as if you are married. What would you be doing? Would you be coming home early? Would you be cooking dinner? Would you be sitting at a table? Would you be imagining yourself talking to a mate? Would you have a wedding ring on? Would you be taking off your imaginary wedding ring before bed? Would you be bettering yourself, learning about relationships, going to places where married people or people looking to get married would hang out? You begin to be in the vibration and act from that place that it is already occurred, that already is happening. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to use a technique. Now, this technique goes back many, many, many different wise people have done it. I learned this in hypnosis, and it's called the hypnagogic state. It's the state before falling asleep. Your mind is basically like a series of doorways, a series of trap doors. We'll say that, right? You have basically this floor, and at certain points in your consciousness, this floor just opens up, and things that are being held in the awareness of that state will drop down. So think of it like this. If I put this pen in my hand and all of a sudden I open my hands, the pen falls. Well, it dropped down to the next layer below the pen. In this case, that's the computer. It dropped down to the computer, right? And is now on the keyboard. This pen dropped down. Your mind is like that. And if you imagine the layers of your mind, like my hand holding the pen and the computer, my hand holding the pen would be the conscious mind. Think of it this way. I have to consciously hold this pen. I have to think about it. I have to hold my hands here. It's kind of uncomfortable, right? But as long as I can hold this pen in my hands, then eventually I'm going to get tired of holding it. Now I can pull my hands away, but if I keep holding it, and eventually I get tired and my hands slip, the pen drops down. That dropping down is dropping into the subconscious mind. That is the level of awareness. Some people call it the unconscious mind. I like and was trained to say the subconscious mind. Well, the subconscious mind is the doorway to this infinite intelligence. It's this doorway. So whatever you're holding in the imagination is the mind of God. As you drift to sleep, as you enter this hypnagogic state, as you feel the feeling, the sensation of the acting from the place of already completed, and you go to bed, that idea, that vibration, that feeling drops into the subconscious mind, into this innate intelligence, this mind of God. You're already playing in the mind of God with the imagination. But now as you go to sleep, it drops in and it begins to program into your subconscious mind. This is the story that I should tell everyone about the Neville Goddard, his exercise where he used to, do the ladder. We'll have to talk about that. It's pretty cool. A lot of stories out there on that, but that's where it drops in. So what you want to do is get really clear on the outcome, what it would feel like, what it would be like. Saturate your senses, go and have the experience as much as possible. It's like sitting in the car, right? Looking at the pictures, feeling the feeling, maybe drive the car, whatever it is. But then you want to go and you want to feel the feeling and feel what it would be like from the space of having it before you go to bed. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to think about it for a while and then you're going to get tired, but you want to repeat it over and over again. You want to repeat it like a movie. You want to play it over and over again. So, like if I'm trying to sell a business and I am imagining that I've sold this business, I am not going to think to myself, I hope that this business sold. I hope I get the price I want. If I'm going to be optimal, I'm going to imagine the moment that I see the check in my hand and I go, wow, this is done. Or I'm going to see the moment that I tell my friend I've sold it and everybody's celebrating. I'm going to find a scene, a moment in time that represents it. And I'm going to find a scene that really feels like I am just absolutely excited. I'm over the moon. I'm really vibrating. I'm really feeling the joy of it, right? And I'm going to play that over and over and over again. Now, I've never sold business, but I've felt happy before. And I've had like those wins where I'm like, wow, this is great. So I can take that and I can apply that to this outcome. I can feel it again and make a little movie, almost like we see a YouTube short. We watch these little shorts all day. Can you make a YouTube short, a short in your mind that you just play over and over again? Now, the last thing I'm going to teach you to do real quick is a technique I learned from my NLP master practitioner, Dr. William Horden. And it's called the double click technique. And there's different ways you can do this, but we can also use a finger clasp technique. But what the double click technique is you are going to basically practice with your mouse finger, right? I've got a little mouse here that I click. You're going to practice with that finger because it's extremely, or even your phone double tap finger, that finger's extremely used to tapping. So you are going to imagine you are tapping on maybe a desk, on your leg, on your computer, wherever you are. And every time you tap, you're going to open up that movie, that little short, and you're going to play it in your mind. You're going to feel the feeling. You're going to see the congratulations. You're going to see the joy. You're going to see whatever it is. And then when that wears away and you're like, okay, I lost that split of focus, that split of feeling, I'm going to tap again. I'm going to feel it again. And you just keep doing this. And as you go through your day, you can literally tap your leg, tap anything. You can do this thousands of times a day. Now, that sounds pretty wild, right? But what we are doing is we are impressing on the simulation a different frequency, a different timeline, a different set of feelings so that we then move into that new timeline. So just imagine, hey, what's up, UFO Mark? One of the things that's happening in this reality is we are shifting the timeline by changing the vibration that we hold. I shared a lot of stories about people who literally walked out of things like a Soviet prison camp. How did they do that? How would you walk out of a Soviet prison camp? You would think about literally this scene of freedom over and over again until you no longer vibrated at the same reality of that prison camp. Or maybe, just maybe, everything in that split second opened up and people were looking the other way, and your unconscious, your mind of God gave you the cue to start walking, and you were in such faith, such obedience to your own God self that you walked right through those gates. That's the story of Dr. von Blank Schmidt. I read that in one of the videos I did this week. It's a true story documented in the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Murphy. So by taking this scene, this feeling, double clicking, and opening up the scene, feeling the feeling, allowing it to unfold, you start to shift your vibration to where you start to move into a different timeline. And this different timeline is going to vibrate you, according to string theory, there are multiple timelines, into that particle or that wave. It's defined by you. So as you start to feel it, as you start to vibrate on it, you're going to start to move in that timeline. Now, what's going to also happen is, as you go through your day and you start to vibrate at that timeline, you are going to get clues, suggestions, things that you would naturally do in that timeline. And here's where big mistakes are made. I've been very fortunate. I went from having like a $60,000 a year income to 1.4 million 14 months later. This was like 12, 14 years ago. And I've done this consistently year after year, all the time. Why? Because once you change the timeline, you are going to start to get cues, suggestions, and tips and ideas to act in accordance with that timeline. I cannot vibrate at $1 million, $2 million, $10 million a year timeline if I want to sit at home and just kind of be what I was at $60,000 a year. Chances are my consciousness and what I'm being prodded to do is going to be in alignment with someone who is in that timeline. That doesn't mean I'm going to do just like, amazing, like wild things and like, buy the Empire State Building, but it means I may get the impulse to start thinking of other people, to start thinking about how to do something that would share something bigger than what I used to be. You're going to start to be in the resonance of somebody in that space, and then opportunities are going to vibrate into your reality that would be in alignment to that space, and you're going to start to hold the consciousness or the collective field of that space. So let me finish this video. I know it's gone a little long. 78% of Americans say they live paycheck to paycheck. 1/3 say they would be broke in a week if they didn't have a salary. Why is this happening? Number one, we are not using our imagination. Remember, imagination, you can say imagination equal to God. If you get that formula, you will figure that out for the rest of your life, that you are God. When you are in your imagination, you're tapping in to your God self. Your God self will create in this reality what it is you want, as long as you keep holding that imagination and taking action. So you've got to develop it. How do you do that? Go to the place, go to the thing you want, try to create a scene where it is tactile, it is real, it is absolutely something you feel that absolutely is real, to where your senses are engaged in it. And then create a very short little, like 5-second, 20-second little clip in your mind where you feel all the feelings. And then use the Will Horton double tap technique. Simply just sit there on your leg, on your computer, just double tap like you do every day on your phone to watch videos on stuff that doesn't even matter, and just double tap. And then as you do, open up this little scene in your mind, open it up again and again, and feel the feelings. Let the feelings wash over you. When that 5-second scene is over, you're like, okay, I went through that. Do it again, do it again, do it again. Continue doing it over and over and over again during the day. You will start to change your vibration. As such, your timeline will begin to change. You'll start to resonate. Why do guitar strings sound different? Why do guitar strings and tuning forks make noise? Because they vibrate. As they vibrate at a frequency, and they match any other frequency that's vibrating at that level, and they will start to entrain. You will entrain yourself to that vibration. If you haven't figured it out, it is a vibratory world. It is a simulation, an electromagnetic world that is literally all about vibration. That's where I read the other day, U.S. Anderson, The Electromagnetic Mind, right? Where he said that we are literally just these, of course, we have consciousness, we have this amazing credibility, but in some respects, simply, we are these electromagnetic beings, these little fields within a giant electromagnetic field, and each person can control their own electromagnetic field through thought, through vibration. And when we change the electromagnetic vibration of what we're holding, what we're thinking, what we're imagining, what we're feeling, we start to move in this bigger field. We start to reposition in this field. And we're moved by everything else in the field. And we're supported by that, which is pretty wild, because it means that once we start changing, we're actually moved by the weight of the entire field. And that means that, according to U.S. Anderson, in this section I read, we cannot be stopped. That's how you become unstoppable. That's how you walk out of the prison camp. That's how you go to Barbados when you don't have money, if you're Neville Goddard. That's how you create the shift. So this is absolutely a 5-step process. Follow it. me see what's Dr. Bruce Lipton thinks UFO Mark II. That's exactly what Dr. Bruce Lipton has been going on Coast to Coast AM and other radio shows for years. Tells us to do it in books. There are only so many truths. Like everyone is echoing, and I know everyone has unique aspects to it. I do as well. He does. But that's what Neville Goddard said. That's kind of what Napoleon Hill said. That's kind of what, Think and Grow Rich said. They all, not Think and Grow Rich, the book As a Man Thinketh, right? They all tapped in to this universal truth is that absolutely they are these levels. When we drop in, we realize God equals imagination. God exists in your imagination. From that, you create your world. Go through these tips. Let me know what you think. Submit your questions. I only meant to go about 5 minutes. I went 20. Hope it was useful for y'all. Thanks so much. If you liked the video, hit like and subscribe. Got a lot more I want to cover and a lot more things that I want to kind of share. So we appreciate you. And let me know what else you'd like me to cover or any other questions. I'm certainly here to help. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, I run a show called UWealth Revolution. Been doing that for about 13 years. And have reached probably millions of people all over the world. And I've interviewed more than 2,500 thought leaders, experts in all sorts of wild things like energy, soul healing, UFOs, consciousness, and everything else. It's a pretty interesting world. And we have the master key, you, me, and everyone else. Much love, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for spending your night with me. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye now. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.